Hi, glad to see you on my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's important to me. Have a good view. The crews of airplanes of maritime powers, which has always included Great Britain, often have to fly over water, and sometimes these flights end in an emergency landing. Even with rescue equipment on board, the search for the missing aircraft and evacuation of the crew must be organized as quickly as possible. In Great Britain, the system of rescue of pilots who fell into the sea began to be created in the mid-1930s, and by the beginning of the Second World War, it was quite workable. Afterwards, the Americans had to think about solving a similar problem. The first steps in the right direction. During World War I, British pilots had to fly a lot over the sea on patrols in search of German submarines, as well as intercept Zeppelins and Goths over the English Channel. In order to leave the crews at least a minimal chance of survival, aircraft designers introduced into the designs of some deck-wheeled aircraft special elements that increased buoyancy. This situation persisted for quite a long time after the war. In 1918, naval and army aviation merged to form the Royal Air Force. Together with seaplanes, the RAF received service vessels, tugboats, floating docks. In 1930, the Air Ministry established the Aircraft Maintenance Coordination Committee, which began to deal with RAF auxiliary vessels. In particular, high-speed boats were needed to evacuate airplane crews stranded in the water. In 1935, this area was separated into a separate committee on marine vessels. By the mid-1930s, the intensity of overwater flights increased again, especially in civil aviation. So in 1933-1934, instructions were developed to regulate the actions of coastal structures in case of emergency grounding or disappearance of aircraft over water. The RAF Coastal Command ordered new high-speed rescue boats, which were used to equip coastal squadrons of naval aviation, both in the metropolis and in the colonies. The rescue operation was to involve many structures, in one way or another, connected with the sea or aviation. An alarm was sounded when a distress call was received, or when the deadline for a board to reach its destination expired. Civilian and military rescuers were informed, ships traveling in the area of the search for the airplane were warned, as well as crews of civilian airplanes. If an airplane was believed to be lost beyond the 300-mile coastal zone, the message was transmitted by international radio channel. Flying boats from nearby naval aviation bases were involved. By the late 30s, this part of the rescue system was more or less formed, but the crews still lacked effective onboard exercises became more frequent, including over the sea. For example, according to the military plan, British bombers were to fly to Germany over the North Sea. So, that flights over water became mandatory in the exercises of the Bomber Command. RAF rescue boats and naval ships were sent to the area of such exercises. Coastal rescue services and even civilian airlines and privateers who had radio-controlled airplanes suitable for searching over water were warned. Additional speedboats were transferred to East Coast naval aviation bases just in case. When war broke out, an important element of the rescue system, the civilian sector, dropped out. At the same time, in the Battle of Britain, most of the losses of fighter command were in the surface air defense zones. There was a shortage of fighter pilots, and rescuing them from the water becomes the most important task. On the coast of the Straits, urgently organized rescue services, equipped with requisitioned small ships and boats, from the Aviation Command of Cooperation with the Army were taken on lease 12, lay sender, and together with liaison officers sent to the fighter command. In August 1940, a joint rescue service was established. All ships were transferred to local naval formations. The Air Force informed sailors about the missing airplanes and carried out air searches. After the end of the Battle of Britain, it was decided to strengthen this direction, and in January 1941, the Maritime Rescue Service Department was formed. To distinguish it from the Navy Sea Rescue Service, SRS, the new structure was called Air Sea Rescue Services, ASRS. It was subordinate to the Chief of Air Staff. It was required to coordinate operations to rescue airplanes and crews at sea, to supply from the air to those in hurricane into 4 squadrons. Lay senders sent to the area of the landing found the survivors, called Seaplane Valrus, dropped an inflatable boat and mark the place with a smoke bomb. In September, a meeting of top management was held to evaluate the activities of the department and determine what should be done in the future. It was noted that the percentage of rescued people increased from 20 to 35%. But the service patrol planes to the rescuers and to increase the range of valorous flying boats. To replenish the fleet of airplanes in the spring of 1942, ASRS transferred several fighters, Defiant, removed from combat service. They were distributed to squadrons whose aircraft could meet the enemy on a mission. In most cases, the ASR planes could only locate a place with people in distress and call for help, guide help by radio, mark the spot with signal bombs and flares, and deliver supplies.